Okay, we're live.
Hi,
Hi, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Hey. Okay. Do you have one of those weird days where I had like two messages from clients. One
Hmm.
said, "Oh, there's a snail in my box," and then the other one said, "Oh, you cut the stems really long today." It's like really, it's like all in the same. Like we never have problems, and then suddenly we have like these two weird. They're not real problems, but they're like,
It just happens. Yes, I get it.
yeah,
I'm in the resort, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Sometimes
It's
I
I guess
wonder how what's happening. There's like a connection somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. They always pile up in one day. It's kind of weird.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay, so today, uh, we kind of had a little bit of a chat about this. We're going to talk about cooking, uh,
Yep.
which actually is surprisingly an important subject,
Yep.
because, and I want to refer to, let me pull it up. I kind of, I have two sort of pathways into this subject, which kind of made me really notice it.
Hmm.
Um, one was actually, One was actually the beginning of the slow food movement, and that sort of kind of informed the when I was sort of planning the edible park.
Okay.
Some of the ideas that because those ideas hasn't hadn't really filtered here.
Yeah.
Uh,
Or in
in
very
the sen-
small pockets.
yeah, I
I
mean, we
think.
were
Yeah.
people were talking about food insecurity and not really about the fact that our food sovereignty was being affected. How we actually eat was being threatened by this sort of global capitalism that's changing our habits,
I
changing
think that
our.
Malaysia as
Yeah.
a population is small,
Yeah.
and in that small population, there are even smaller niches that are concerned about different things around food. You know.
Mm.
So
Sure.
within those small niches, you get
Yeah,
like
that's a good
super
point.
organic.
It's
Yeah,
quite splintered. Our interests are quite splintered.
yeah,
Okay, and then a few years later, Michael Pollan had written a book, and it was sort of in the same vein. I mean, basically, also, one of the proponents of the slow food movement was Alice Waters, who has that restaurant in Berkeley. And, she was the one that was sort of raising the alarm about how, without knowing it, uh, American industry,
yeah.
especially the advertising industry, had started this insidious messaging that said, you know what, you deserve a break. You need a special treat. And that's when the beginning of like consumerism began. You know,
Right.
it was actually quite an interesting thing because people before needed to be persuaded to take time off or buy more things or,
Yeah,
that kind of thing. So that was actually sort of the beginning.
yeah,
I think by the time Michael Pollan came along, he was starting to say, oh, actually, there's a lot hidden.
yeah,
This idea of ingredientism in food, like
yeah,
corn syrup and
yeah.
high amounts of sugar and so on. So he sort of blew the whistle on that.
Mm.
Um, and then a couple of years after I started Edible Park, Poland did a series on Netflix called Cooked, and I'll see if I can get a link to it, which was also fundamental to this idea because he was basically saying, we've been convinced that cooking is not a good idea, and actually what is happened is that capitalism has now
Because it needs to get
owned the
products.
owned
Yeah,
the means of production in the kitchen. It's told
yeah.
you that you know what, you have no time to cook.
Convenience is yeah.
Yeah,
Convenience is
yeah,
worth your money.
yeah.
Yeah.
So some very important outcomes of that is he's saying that uh, it's stealing consumerism because actually what you're doing is you're only releasing time to either work to earn more money or to spend
Yeah.
time in the mall shopping. So you're not. Whereas if you actually spend time cooking, which has now been labeled as tedious, leche,
Or
whatever,
or it's a privilege to be able to cook
or
your meals.
privilege,
It's a
yeah,
privilege.
yeah,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah, and then at the same, and while doing that. Oh, he uses another term which is quite interesting. He says it counters modern life's intense consumerism and learned helplessness. I think that's quite an interesting
Yeah.
way of looking at
Learn
it.
helplessness. Yeah.
It's like we've got no time. We've got to do it. And I remember noticing it when I first came back because I was noticing that people were not cooking. I was seeing like entire families buying their food takeaway every night, all in plastic. So this was adding all to a lot of its sustainability issues. So, you have
Also, like where we are, to buy freshly cooked food is rather cheap, you know,
true.
and to buy
Yeah, but it does,
fresh ingredients.
but it's masked by the quality. Though. The quality of the food is not high that we buy,
Yeah. But
you
also,
know.
okay, so like I'm interesting, right? Mm, have the only thing I've cooked for myself, like cook for myself, is eggs, like versions of eggs. Maybe I've made rice, like a one pot meal, like twice. That's it. I've been here since January. The rest of the time, my mom's cooking and sending it over. I'm buying food, or Lyman is cooking.
Yeah. We're going to get into
You
that. We're
know,
going to get into it,
so it's cheaper for
who
me.
cooks and who is.
Yeah, it's cheaper for me to go out and eat a
Yeah.
freshly cooked meal than to
Sure,
actually cook
sure.
it myself. Yeah.
Yeah, which is actually going to be part of this conversation because it's actually really everybody's different. And
Mm.
the reason, like I said, that triggered my ideas about having this conversation is because I had this conversation with Shamala. She was here. We were just talking about, and she was telling me how her mom is actually quite influential in her cooking because she is a good cook. She's cooked her whole life for children.
Yeah.
And she and Shamla talk a lot about it. And Shamla has quite some demands. She has two sons, so she
Yeah.
cooks for the family. And then, she also has to maintain some kind of food requirement. They have to eat vegetarian on certain days. They
Mhm.
can't eat beef and pork, and so there's some things.
Cultural boundaries. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So she was saying she has quite a lot of interesting conversations with her mother about like, why don't you cook this today, kind of thing, which I thought
Right.
was quite interesting. Which also got me thinking about, so I asked her, how did you learn to cook? And she said, oh, my mother, she's the one that, so it was actually a process. It was a transference of knowledge by her mother at home in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And that was not my history of cooking. And I cook quite a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm quite a good cook, but I have a completely different history from that, which is what I'm going to talk about. And I've known you for many years.
Yeah.
You have never cooked a meal for me because you are like,
I did.
when
Halloween.
you cooked that.
You made devil curry. I made the pink brain out of the
Alamak, that was
cauliflower,
just like
and we made dal. Yeah, we made dal. We
all
made
right.
the dal.
My
Yeah.
perception of you is you're like just boss lady and your mom does the your mom does the cooking or you're instructing Lyman to make the food or you're not really involved in
I'm the
food.
prep chef. I only prep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think that's the other thing. We all do different things
Yeah.
in this sort of world of food. So it'd be quite interesting to uh compare those things.
Yeah.
So um let me start with mine because and then we'll move on to your background with how you learned to cook. So I had no need to cook because I grew up and we had a cook. We were, you know, I come from a family that was one of the first wave of double income middle class in the 60s. So my family, we had a cook, we had a maid, we had a driver, all that kind of, and because it was unusual that both my parents had college degrees and they both had incomes, and so it was actually a fantastic time in Malaysian history. Actually, you know, we were getting rich, we were comfortable, you know. Um, and some of the ideas were really simple. You just need to get educated, go to college. And going to college was easy. You can go to University of Malaya. You don't have to, you don't need money to go to the UK and stuff like that. So that was quite interesting. So I didn't need to cook. But this cook that we did have, she was she used to work in my family, so she was actually my mother's
Mm-hmm.
nanny, Maja.
Okay.
And when my mom was kind of old enough, she went to work for my grand aunt, who is an incredible cook. So she learned how to cook from her. So she actually, weirdly, she's a Chinese woman, Cantonese from Guangzhou, fled because of the Manchurian War to Malaysia. And she couldn't cook Chinese food. She can only cook Eurasian food because that's what she learned to cook,
Yes.
you know? And so she learned to cook all these incredible Eurasian, and then she had a real soft spot for me. So she, always like fine tuned it to what I like. She'd say, "What do you want to eat tonight?" And then she'd cook
Uh-uh.
it. She'd cook it, and then when she'd bring it out from the kitchen, she'd actually put like the best, like the leg. My sister to this day remembers that. She's like, you'd always get like the best part of the chicken.
But isn't
So
that
that
too
was my
nice on the chicken?
so that was my memory of food, and we had a really nice assortment of very Asian style, like but with Western dishes mixed with some Chinese dishes and Eurasian dishes. And I had no idea how they were being made in the kitchen, except because this cook, and she was cooking two completely different sets of meals every day. You know,
Mm,
and then if I went to stay at my grandmother's, there would be tea. There'd be a cake at tea time. There'd be dessert at night.
mm.
So it was I had really wonderful memories of food. And then I go to school in the UK when I'm 17. I'm going to boarding school and sixth form, and the food there is just freaking horrible. It's just slop. It's just
So Oliver Twist.
yeah. But what was interesting about English boarding school is they will actually give them all the correct names. Like lamb magdalens, and then with a full description of what it is, medallions of lamb with the whatever. So because that's what like an English
Yes.
boarding school is about, is to teach you how to
Live
navigate
in the world.
privilege.
Yeah. Once you get out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you need to know the
It's
names
grooming.
of
It's
things.
grooming. Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, it's
So
grooming.
later, you know how to order it at a restaurant. So I knew all the names of all the dishes,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. But it was horrible. It was badly prepared, really sloppy, and uh, and then I thought to myself, "Oh my God, I need to learn how to cook. I'm never going to eat what I ate growing up." So I
Right.
started. I would every time I would go home, I would say, "Can I learn how to do this?" And then I would also stay for vacation at my aunt's house in the UK. And she was quite a good cook, but she was dealing with very poor ingredients, like no Asian ingredients. She lived in this small
Right.
town where she could only buy bean sprouts and soy sauce. Those are the two Asian ingredients that she could buy. So, one day I took her to the Chinatown grocery store, and she was like crying because suddenly she could buy like sambal oelek and frozen coconut water and
Yes.
all these things she hadn't eaten for like 30, 40 years. You know.
Wow.
So I kind of learned how to cook through her. And then at school, we were allowed to cook at the weekends. And my first attempt at cooking was with a friend who lived in Africa. He was an English guy, English boy. His parents were missionaries,
Mm.
and they had Indian houseboy.
Right.
So he had a recipe for an Indian curry
Okay.
that we tried to make.
Okay.
Okay. So that was my absolute first try cooking. We followed this recipe. Recipe said 2 cloves of garlic. We put in 2 bulbs of garlic.
Trying to wait off the vampires, is it?
People were like, "Oh my God!" They were like swerving past us the next day. So that was kind of funny. And then after school and university, I took it more serious. I bought books. I bought a book about Malaysian food. There was quite a famous Indian actress called Madhu Jeffrey, who had a
Okay.
TV series about cooking, and
Right.
her book was out. So I learned actually Indian food was probably the first thing I learned. So I learned to do
Right.
it from scratch. I learned to do it quite well. And then
Right.
I think I bought a Thai cookbook.
Right.
And then, as you progress, you learn to, you learn this understanding. I read somewhere a chef say that a recipe is just the basic architecture of a dish. You know,
Yep.
you are free to,
Manipulate
rat-
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
manipulate it a little bit to your taste or to your background and stuff like that. So, so by then I was quite confident in cooking and I was starting to think, how can I recreate some dishes? Because, I don't know about you, but I was missing something from my childhood
Right.
and trying to, especially living in a Western country. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I just remember that. I wonder if I can just do that. So I would actually try some things to do that. So that was learning to cook for me. And then another era was I lived 17 years in the UK and 19 years in the US. So I also learned to cook Western food quite well. There was I sort of had one era when I thought, I'm just going to learn to cook some very simple things really well. So I learned
Mm.
how to cook like an Italian red sauce, pasta sauce. I just did it over and over and over again. And
Mm.
asked, it- I asked Italians how they did it. I looked at books how they did it. And, I make a pretty good red sauce pasta. Stuff
Which
like
I have
that,
not tried yet. I need to
So,
remember this.
yeah. But the drive always is when you're living in a cold temperate country
Yep.
is you're missing Asian food. So I'm cooking more Asian food and I'm eating the Western food. I'm going for brunch. I'm getting really nice sandwiches. I'm eating pizza and stuff like that.
Mm.
Fast forward when I come back in 2010 and it's kind of reversed. Cooking seems like such a chore now because I could just go buy from the warung. They make the curries and sambals are so much nicer.
Yep.
But what I can't get is I cannot get a good sandwich. I cannot get a good brunch.
Yep.
You know, Nobody knows how to make a nice pasta. It's not al dente. The
Mm.
sauce is not good. Roasts are not good. Grilling is not good.
Yep.
So I've had different sort of eras in my cooking. And And my latest era is actually because I'm now in the business of ingredients. I do a lot of experimentation based on my ingredients. So a lot of fermented stuff.
Mm.
I'm trying a lot of plant-based stuff.
Mm.
Um, because, I don't want to, I'm not a vegan and I can't see myself ever becoming 100% vegan, but I do want to eat more plant-based food and
Right.
have them more in my mix.
Yeah.
And, so those are sort of
But I
my
feel like
eras.
you've been very creative in embracing plant-based food. I think all my meals
Yeah, I think that's quite
that have been
intentional. Yeah,
plant-based have been bizarrely amazing. Like, I never think of the things that, I mean, you always tell me what you put in, but like,
sure,
I would never think those were the things that went into what it tastes like.
sure,
It's
sure.
like, it's what you know and what you're tasting, and it doesn't do this, but it's like,
Yeah,
woohoo. Yeah. So
which
that's a
is
very
also,
interesting bit.
which is actually also a little bit interesting because I found that people here don't like you messing with food. I made a pasta with like ikan bilis and you know chopped
Okay.
chili, and
Okay.
if I post it on Facebook, I'm getting like no likes. You know,
Okay.
yeah, people are kind of a little not really agreeable with the idea of messing with a templated thing, which is kind of weird because um I had a friend here. He'd grown up in Italy,
Right.
and he said to me, I don't get what you know. People think that Italian food is Italian ingredients. Actually, it's not. It's just the best local ingredients.
Yes.
So I want you to tell me what are the best local ingredients. So I took him to the
Yeah.
market. I and he ended up using a lot of things like like saltfish, the ikan curau saltfish.
Yeah.
So he discovered it's actually very much like anchovy.
Yeah. Yep.
It even
Yep.
acts like anything you cook it, it all
Yep.
breaks down. You can make a
Yep.
really nice sauce with it. He was buying his pasta from a Chinese wonton lady because he said that's pasta. You know,
Any
she
noodle
makes it.
is yeah.
She makes it fresh in the morning. For
Yeah.
1 ringgit, I can buy a big packet of it from her. You know,
Yeah.
whereas we are buying the dried stuff from the
Yeah.
imported people and stuff like that. So, there's some confusing ideas about food or food preparation and what is food and what is your food and stuff like that. So that's kind of kind of weird.
We like
Okay,
the
let's
stereotype. I would say that in my understanding of the way we eat is we like the stereotype. We are enamored by the American version of these foods because we're very American centric.
sure.
So whatever it is, Japanese food, the American style. Mexican food, the American style.
Yeah,
Italian food, the American style. So
yeah.
actually when you go to these places and you start eating their food, then you realize, it's not what I thought it was.
No. Actually, it's quite interesting because how Western centric our food is because when I was sort of researching, I was working on a project about maybe doing a local branded food line, and I was now looking at the supermarket more, with much keener focus.
Yeah.
And I realized, we have a lot of Western food on our shelves.
Yes.
Kellogg's cornflakes, Milo,
Yes.
milk. I mean, there's so many things that are part of our diet that are actually very, very westernized
Yeah.
you know, that have started to really replace a lot of our local things.
Yeah. No, because local
So much
things
so that our
typically
local
don't need
things,
to be preserved.
that's
Yeah.
one reason. It's that
Yeah.
it's convenience.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason. Yeah, yeah. And then there's also like a shift in the sort of perception of local food. I see like local food being pushed into the lower shelves. All the
Mm.
laksa rumpala, all that. And it's
Okay.
not high end.
Right.
The Italian sauces are on high end is the higher up the shelves. Eye level is highest end in the supermarket value
Yep.
system. So I thought that was quite kind of interesting that local food it's sort of pushed into a local food section. It's really badly developed.
Yeah.
This, you know, and then when we were looking at OEM companies who are making local food for Western markets, like Australia, so much nicer, beautiful packaging, higher quality ingredients. Um, Much more well described. Um,
I don't
Talking
know.
about
Is
things that
that because they perceive locals will look at sophisticated packaging and assume it's expensive and not buy it. So it's not about the quality of the
I don't know
product,
if they're doing it as a
it's the
reaction to a
fear that
local
it's
thing.
expensive.
I don't think they're doing it as a reaction to a local thing. They're doing it to meet the demands of a Western market. So the
Ah, okay.
Western market, you know what I mean? The Western market it just demands, they want to know, is it recyclable? Is it
Right.
healthy? Is it low fat? That kind of stuff is starting to appear. And they want to, and then they're, it needs to sit on a shelf that's competing with a lot of other food. So it needs to,
Right. Right.
look,
Right. Right.
look a lot better. So that was that was the kind of eye opener. So I think that's actually, we have a lot of opportunity in the local food area. So, I've done that. I've done a Eurasian food line, which I'm going to put a link in here in case
Yeah.
anyone is interested. Uh, and that is an interesting lane because even though, like, for example, like devil curry, say, right,
Mm.
which is like a classic Eurasian dish. uh, It's a classic Christmas dish. And I've cooked it from scratch. I've cooked it from scratch following various recipes. You know what? It's hard to make. It is a pain to make. You have to fry this, put it aside, then you have to cook this and put it aside, and then you have to mix it. I was like, oh my
That's what
God.
keeps the women enslaved to the kitchen.
And then you have to pound it, and you have to,
Yep.
and I remember my mother saying to me when I was in London, she's like, no, you can't put it in the blender. You have to pound it because if you don't pound it, you won't get the right color from the chili. I'm like,
Yes.
no, it's not happening. I'm not pounding nothing.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But that's how
Yeah,
they keep you in that time scale to produce the food.
yeah. So when I discovered this lady in Malacca who was doing this, and that's why I did the line. I thought, you know what? I can take back some power in this. I can
Yep.
control the quality of the food. 'Cause part of the, I can't control the quality. There's no locally, I can't buy locally bought double curry paste. It doesn't exist. And then if I even try to buy other things that exist, the quality is not good. I mean, have you ever tried making laksa with a basic laksa rampa you can buy from the
No.
supermarket? It's not nice.
I have lemon
I'd
nut.
rather I would rather go, yeah, I would rather go to just the nearby stall is 100 times better than that
Yep,
place.
yep, yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So
Then,
I thought, so for me, this lane was quite interesting is that I can control the quality because, so this Eurasia is making it high quality. This is like home
yep,
quality food.
yep,
She's also taking the labor out of it for me.
yep,
It's not a rumpa, it's actually a cooked curry
yep,
condensed. I just need to add water.
yep.
And then I add a good quality protein and a good quality
Vegetable.
vegetable. Well, and then I make a side. So I now move back up to a sort of a higher level of eating, good
Yep.
quality. I have more control on the things. And I've removed some of the labor parts, which,
Mm,
there are some benefits to modernism and
yep.
shifting getting someone else, paying someone to do another part of the
Mm,
job. I think that's cool, because she's been doing it for like decades, so she does it really quick. I've visited her many times, and she's
yep.
just making these huge pots of like achar and sauces.
Professionalism.
Oh my god, I could never do. Yeah, so
Nice.
I think there's a lot of opportunity for that.
Mm,
One side note of that is, and this is something I also learned from some of my F&B friends here, is actually almost everything in the commercial world is now being done that way as well. Like
yep.
even the hawker, they're all buying it from a central kitchen somewhere.
Yes, 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 yes. I
They're not
remember seeing
making,
roti canai being delivered. So the guy will come with this huge tub, and then he'll
yeah,
just drop it at the roti canai station. And then the
yeah,
roti canai guy starts like, flattening it out and like
yeah,
flinging it. And all the
yeah.
balls were already made by somebody else, and it's just landed on his desk for food production.
Even like
Yeah.
like wonton mee, the soup,
Mm,
it's
yeah.
a stock case now.
It's in a jug. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's actually before the differentiation was between each hawker. Oh,
Yes.
his thing. Now, actually, so many of them are buying from the same central kitchen.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
So that is a shift in the food thing. Yeah, so that's quite interesting. Okay, let's talk about you and your cooking, your non-existent cooking.
I guess okay for me, my dad was my mom's gonna kill me, but yeah, my dad's a way better cook than my mom.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and even when I was a kid,
Do you know how did he learn to cook?
from his mom, because
Okay,
my dad was the youngest of seven.
okay,
So, and my grandfather was very demanding. Like his breakfast had to have certain things that it had to be prepared at a certain time, and he has to be at the table by the time he sits there. And he was very strict about this. And my grandma would she would prep for him specifically, and then she had children, and then she also made nasi lemak, and the kids would sell it at school because they went to like Catholic school, so they would sell it to their friends. And I remember these stories from my grandma, like explaining to me certain things, because I when I was in kindergarten, I think I stayed with her a little bit after school, and my parents would pick me up from there. So I remember bits and bobs of this, because me and a cousin would play in her house, and my grandfather would walk my cousin back to her house, which is like a couple of roads over. So yeah, my dad learned from his mom, and then he lived in India. He did his engineering degree in India, so he learned how to cook there.
okay,
And I guess he really enjoyed cooking because it was a very communal thing. And because his brothers were much older than him, he never really had that kind of like hangout. So he had that with his friends. And even when, as before he passed, even as a teenager, we would always do Christmas at my godparents' house. And my godparents' house, we would stay from the beginning of the school holiday till the end of the school holiday. So we get dropped off like summer camp. We'll do whatever we want to do in Banting. And then my parents will come the weekend of Christmas, or the couple of days before Christmas. My dad will do the barbecue. My goddad will cook the curry, and my godmom will cook something else, and my mother will cook something else. And then my godparents' maid also will cook. So there'll be like 15 kids, like all their friends' children will all congregate and stay in this house for like
Mm.
the weeks of the school holidays. And that's kind of how we grew up. And we're still very close now. And yeah, and my godparents' sons, when they do Christmas today, nowadays they do Christmas. And if we're in town, we would food prep for them. So me and Lyman will both food prep for them. So for me, um, a lot of my experience with cooking has always been on the prep side. So I can clean fish, I can clean crabs, I can clean anything.
So you're saying that Lyman cooks
Yes,
at your house. He's the
yes.
one that will always cook.
He's
Okay.
the one that cooks, but I'm the one that preps and I'm the one that
Good.
buys. So I can pick
Good.
produce.
Yeah.
I know I know what we have in the fridge. And then I'll go like, okay, why
Ah,
don't you just
okay.
make this and
That's
this?
quite
And
an
then
important role.
he will
Yeah.
produce the food.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he doesn't Lyman hates committing to something. So
Oh.
he will never, you send him out to buy groceries and he'll come back with just
Oh,
like,
I see. I see. Oh my
he'll
gosh.
just come back with milk and sugar. I'm like, what the hell am I going to give him milk and sugar? So then I'll give him a list. And then he'll come back like, but I don't know if this is ripe enough to eat tomorrow or the day. I'm like, dude, just fucking buy it. So I will buy everything. And then I'll be like, okay, you're going to cook this and then you're going to cook that. What do you want to cook with this? And then he'll kind of like think about it. He'll look at recipes and then he'll cook it. So sometimes the prep includes me maybe even cutting things and stirring it in the fridge and then he'll just use it, or like blending it up like in a mix and then he'll just use it whenever, or he would do it himself from scratch and then I will just clean up after him. And for
Mm.
him, he grew up in a household where they're Teochews, so they are food people. His father's Cantonese, which is entertaining people. So everyone would come to his house for Chinese New Year, for like the reunion dinner, the third night, the fifth night, the seventh night, the 21st night. So there's a lot of dinners in his house. His aunt cooks really, really well. She spoiled me for Chinese food. I tell you, she has made
Wait.
my
So
level.
the aunt is Cantonese.
No, the aunt is Teochew.
Teochew. Okay.
Yeah. So her, like, when I eat something, I go like, oh yeah, he at least makes it better. And it really spoils my experience eating out because her food's so good. And so
Yeah.
with people like Auntie Alice, she will do everything end to end. She won't let you touch a single thing. You can barely carry the dish from the kitchen to the dining table.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So for me, I've never had this like because I grew up in the hostel, right? My
Right.
grandfather cooks. My mother's dad cooks. My father's grandmother cooks. Even until she was 85, she cooked whenever we took her to the hospital. She would cook on a chair at the stove. She'll put it straight in the plate and then you're eating your hot thosai and your nice fish curry. So I've always come from people who cook, and my grandfather is a paddy farmer, right? My mom's dad. So we've always had fresh rice. So that's
Wow.
rice and pulut. So that's like our family grown, our
Wow.
land kind of produce.
Oh, it's cool.
And my grandfather used to have lots of like fruit trees around the property. So when we had too much mangoes, he would make like a mango pudding, or he made like sarawak, pisang. So he used to make lopes. So my grandfather not only cooked like main meals, he also made the desserts. The Malay desserts, because he was the only son in his family and he had 3 sisters. And he was his parents' favorite child. So he learned all his cooking from his parents. And his mom was Sri Lankan and his dad was Siamese. So
That's
he
the
had this very
that's the
like
interesting part, because
yeah,
what I've also been alluding to is actually, and what you're also saying now is your history of what you ate is quite it totally
broad.
influences what happens in the future. Because when I got to New York, some of the people on my design team that I was working with actually just came
Yeah,
from middle states like Ohio or whatever, and
yeah,
they came through an era of this very industrialized eating.
yeah.
Everything was from a box. They just ate macaroni, cheese, and stuff like that.
Mm,
And I realized, oh, they actually don't know what I mean, they come to New York and they actually discover food. So and then they kind of overcompensate. Like lunchtime, sometimes at
yeah.
lunchtime, the ordering of the food on the phone is, yeah, can we have a side order of wild rice with it's like all this great. they become like so super fancy because they grow up
Right.
very, very basic. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting.
And
Yeah.
I think
So
for me, when
you
you
see
say you're so say,
you were exposed to a lot of really good food then growing
yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah. And for me, when you say you're chasing a childhood flavor, for me, it's in fruit. It's not in food. It's it's not in the rice or the curry. I think the thing I love the most until today is if you make me chicken soup with cabbage, that's like my thing. If you make me chicken rice porridge, that's like my thing with a lot of ginger, that's my thing. These two things I'm already happy. Everything else is like, extra. But fruit, like good mangoes, good rambutan, these are things that the intervention had to happen at the soil for the
Sure.
fruit to be amazing. Yeah.
Well, also there's just site specific. I mean, yes, I was
Yes.
just talking yesterday with Susan and Shama. I mean, we talk. People go crazy for straw. I'm like, one day just driving. I hadn't been to Cameron's for many many years. Just going, I'm like, there's just lines outside the strawberry farms, and the strawberries are horrible because they're not really meant to be grown here. You know,
Mm,
so they're very watery. They're not sweet. There's no intensity to. I mean, they're
right.
just. I don't know why you'd even pay for it. Even like there's like this
We
crazy.
idolize it. That's the problem. We idolize these things.
It's faddish. It's very
Mm,
faddish. So there's like for another one was there's this incredible interest in figs. I guess because there's some religious thing, the prophet or whatever. So there's some interest in it. But then I think when I tasted the fig, I was like, these aren't even nice. They're
yeah.
actually not as intense as the figs you could eat in Europe. You know.
Okay, so this is my metaphor, or rather, this is my comparison. I feel like in Shirating, there are many cafes that produce very decadent looking pastries and cakes. They
So
look amazing. Like you want to just go and buy everything and try it one by one. But once you eat it,
they're not good. Yeah.
they're not good because they're
Yeah.
not using the quality ingredient that you need to get that bulk.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Or they're
Yeah, I
compensating with
actually
something
agree.
cheaper
Yeah,
to get the color, the taste, the smell, the look. Because they don't eat the good stuff, they don't know that their stuff's not good. But it looks
true.
right. It looks Instagram beautiful. And that's the
And also
problem with food as well.
sometimes it's not even beautiful to me. For example, there's definitely like I mean I've worked with some cafes who lean towards like Chinese. It's like they have a large Chinese customer.
Okay.
And they're very Western, but there's something very cold and sterile looking about them. They're very like you know what I'm saying? They're very
Factory looking.
precise. And they're like, everything's beautifulhtly sliced and whatever, and they're just really not that interesting. Whereas sometimes a really messy cake or a dessert made by
It looks artful.
somebody, someone has done it for 30 years. It's,
Yeah.
like actually one day I went for dinner and this lady's husband made this cake and I was just like, oh my God, this cake is incredible. It was just a simple cake with fruit in it. And it was just, my mother told me to do it when there's a lot of fruit. A
Yeah.
lot of breweries, a lot of apple. This is the
Yeah.
cake we would make with that.
Yeah.
It was just perfection.
It's like how my
And
grandfather used to make the pulut
we're kind
bungkus.
of losing them. Yeah.
You know the pulut with the banana inside?
Uh-huh.
So when he had a lot of when the new rice would come in, he has last year's pulut left over. He will just make pulut bungkus, and that will be breakfast. So he's just
So,
finishing his all beras.
right, right.
Very
Yeah,
interesting.
that's another part of cooking is, you are more involved in waste management.
Yeah,
Like that's what I do. Like I cook too much,
yeah,
it goes in the freezer, you know. Even like I actually don't eat a lot of meat, but the meat I eat is usually because my dogs have to eat. They're carnivores.
yeah,
So I'm like, I buy chicken. Okay, I could just cut the leg off and I'll make a curry.
yeah,
I'll have one piece from there, chicken.
yeah.
And that sometimes drives some of the decision making on my part. It's actually what I'm buying for them. I actually spend more time shopping for them than for myself. Really.
Half my fridge is full of cat food.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah. So,
Oh,
okay,
I
then I
cook
would
really
also
good
want to,
animal food. Yes.
yeah,
Yeah, my cats will say yes.
I want to loop back to something else that you said, which is another thing that Alice Waters talked about.
Yep.
When you cook food, and it's sort of, you're managing the waste management, you're
Yep.
managing the quality.
Yep.
When you're picking the food,
Yes.
Lyman may be whatever, but he's also picking good quality food because he's
Yep.
fussy. He
Yep.
only wants it, at, that kind of thing. So there's definitely more quality control going
Yes.
on.
Yes.
So there's definitely that.
Yep.
Um, but she says that, another side effect of food is the table, which is what you alluded to. You know,
Okay.
having people around for dinner,
Yeah.
eating with the family,
Yep.
you know, at a family table, and that is something that I grew up with. We always had people come over dinner once a week or twice a week.
Yep.
Sometimes they would came to play mahjong with my parents, or
Yep.
in my grandmother's house, it was the priest came every Wednesday night or something like
Right.
that. And so you actually learn how to socialize. You
Yep.
learn social skills,
Yep. Yep.
you
Yep.
know. Um, and then I guess if you're involved in the buying of the food, you start to get involved in actually the ethics of food. You start to
Yep.
understand. Uh, you have start.
Seasonality. Yeah.
You can avoid some of the ideas of how people affect food. For example, my dad is an incredible loyalist.
Mm.
So we would, he has a. I would follow him to go shopping like once or twice a week, and all the food was catered, but he would go and buy the fruit. So we go to the market full of fruit, but he would only go to this one lady, and he'd go
Right.
to the lady and go, "Do you have bananas?" And the lady would say, "Finish." And you say, "Okay, thank you." And you turn around and go, I'm like, "Dad, there's all these other stuff. Why don't we buy?" He's like, "No, no, no, no. I only buy from her." You know.
Right. 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 Right.
So there's loyalties,
Yeah.
and in some ways that also manages the quality. I don't know. We're
Yeah.
gonna,
Yeah. Fair. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Because you're trusting the shop person to have done
yeah,
the first filter,
yeah,
and then you do the second filter when you pick which bunch you want. So they've already covered some of the bases.
yeah.
So I think
And
I agree with that kind of loyalty. Yeah.
so it's interesting because, when I go shopping, like some of the vendors also know me because I'm always asking about the food.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always
You
say,
build
where's this?
relationships if you keep going to the
I
same
always
place.
say, where's this from?
Yeah.
You know, and a lot of, when they don't know, I'm not buying from them. That means they're buying from like a second, third
Right.
party wholesaler kind of situation.
Right. Right.
Um, but the thing is, if they are involved in like the farming of, they're actually very proud of it. They say, "Oh,
Yeah.
it comes from my farm.
Yeah.
I don't use any pesticide." Blah, 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 yeah, and I think that's quite interesting to
Mm.
develop that sort of relationship with your food source.
Yeah.
Same with even your secondary food source, like the kedai runchits. That
Yeah.
we would go and get. I mean, traditionally, those places are only buying from factories and resources near them. They're not
Mm.
getting soy sauce from China. They're getting soy sauce from the Johor soy sauce factory. So you
Yeah.
can, you're really shopping within an ecosystem when you buy from
Yeah.
your local kadai.
Yeah.
That's changing, obviously. It's changing.
Yeah.
And it's definitely changed if you're shopping from a supermarket. Because you have
Yeah.
no idea unless they're actually following the legal requirements of writing down where it comes from, which, I guess they're getting better. It's
Some do,
getting
some
better.
don't. Yes, yeah. But I
Yeah.
like the little shops because sometimes, like for instance, when you buy spices, and if you do marinades, some of the spice shops will grind up all the spices and they sit in these bags in piles, and they will just, oh, you want to cook chicken, and they'll just they'll
Sure.
cook the right things together, and then they'll tell you, okay, so this is for like 3 kilos of chicken. So then you go back home and you kind of figure out, okay, if 3 kilo chicken this amount, okay, I put 2 scoops. You can kind of work it out, work out the math of
Yeah.
the rempah. So I feel like those kind of shops, they still exist, but not many.
Yeah,
But
it's so
like
funny
you said,
because I was talking about it with Shamla because we both go to the same guy in Larkin to buy our Indian curry paste.
okay.
And I love that guy. There's just something about him that is so authentic.
Hmm.
He does exactly that. He says, "What do you want to cook? When do you
Yeah,
want to cook it? When do you want to
yeah.
cook it?"
Especially when
And
it's got wet ingredients in it. Yeah.
he has a rumpa for a chicken, a fish, a
Mm.
vegetable, a biryani,
And
a
they'll ask you how
dal.
spicy do you want it,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Yeah, and then they'll
yeah.
just
And then
adjust.
once he's done the whole diagnosis, it's like it's
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah,
art, the way he's just
yeah,
putting it together.
yeah.
And then one day I go there and he's gone. He's not there. There's a
Oh
young man
no.
there. Yeah, and I was like, "Hey, where's that old guy?" He says, "Oh, that's my father. He's not going to be coming anymore." And I was like, "Oh my God," I was actually quite sad because I actually like that interaction,
Yeah,
you know? And so that's actually part of the food, the kind of the food process, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then so back to the table thing, the social skills. I mean, like when I at my grandmother's house, it was a very elevated. We had napkins.
Wow.
There was a gong for dinner. It was very, very managed. It was exactly, and it was exactly. Actually, I had to learn a lot of manners. You couldn't cross your fork with this. Like, there's like a lot of things we had to know
Mm.
to do all that, which is quite interesting. That it's so casual now, right? We don't follow any of those rules now at all.
So how my dad used to do it was because he worked for a Japanese company. He was an electronics guy, and no, he was a megatronics guy. But he worked for a Japanese company, and so once in a while, his Japanese bosses would say, "Let's go out for dinner," and he'll take the whole family. So to train us, he would take us out for like maybe a brunch or something, and we'd have to use fork and spoon, right? And that would be our training to eat out with his boss.
Okay.
And I remember there was this once, because I can write with both left and right hands. I can't draw, I can write. And I can use my left hand quite well enough, like I can eat with chopsticks on my left hand. And this started when I was like, I think when I was 12. And I think we were just, the food, there wasn't coming or something. So we were in a Chinese restaurant and this was chopsticks training day. So I, there was, when you go to Chinese restaurant, they'll give you peanuts on a plate.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
my
yeah.
dad would say like, okay, pick up the peanuts with your chopsticks. So we're
Oh,
all
wow.
like trying to pick up this peanut. And then obviously some of us would do better than others because I'm the eldest, Mahfuz is in the middle, Hafiz is the youngest. So then my dad goes like, okay, use your left hand. So then I'll go and I'll do it successfully with my left hand. And my dad's like, okay, now there's nothing else for her to do. Yeah, it's just something weird that we used to do. Like, yeah, we go for brunch and yeah, we try quite a lot of foods because his bosses were Japanese. And I have
Mm.
so my dad's brother married a German. So when his family, my uncle's family came, then we would eat different things as well because, we were accommodating that side of the family. And I guess in that sense, yeah, Christmas was a thing because my grandma's Catholic, so we eat that kind of food as well. We have Hindu aunts who, are married out of the family and tend to cook more Southern Indian food. And I think it, I'm comfortable eating with my hands or with cutleries. And I think
But
there
did
is a
did you did
difference.
you normally eat with your hands at home? Was it just like a general thing?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I never eat nasi goreng with my hands. I cannot. Just cannot.
Okay.
Like I need a
No, it's
spoon
quite
for nasi
interesting
goreng.
because that Zoran Mamdani in New York, there was like a big deal when he was filmed eating with his hands.
Really?
Yes, it was a big deal.
Yeah,
It's
we are
like
apes.
in MAGA world, it was like he was like this heathen. I don't know, whatever. It's kind of interesting.
But you eat burgers with your hands though.
I mean, that was the pushback. I mean, then the liberals were like, "Well, we eat fried chicken with our hands. We eat burgers with our
Yeah.
hands." It's like,
It's so ridiculous. No, and,
yeah,
and that's the thing, right? When you come from a multicultural background, I
yeah,
don't there's no awkwardness about eating with your hands or with utensils. And I think the variety of utensils also changed because like when I first ate Korean food, I couldn't brain the metal like flat chopsticks.
right,
I
yeah,
couldn't
yeah,
use the
yeah.
round
Yeah,
ones.
yeah. I don't love Korean food. Yeah,
It
there's
is,
something
it is
about it.
not.
Yeah, It's so funny because I think that's one of the things I don't like about Korean food. I don't like the utensils. Is there like cold metal or something like that? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, but I think it comes from like a history of poison. So if you use a particular kind of metal, it will discolor when it's in contact
Oh,
with poison. So I
I
think they
see.
have a high trust issue problem. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think that's where the metal utensils come from for Koreans. Yeah. But this interesting. I mean, I think Asia has like a very broad spectrum of, eating utensils. We skewer our food, right, with single-use bamboo sticks. I don't think any other culture in the West skewers food, does it? The Westerners
Maybe
skewers
like the
food. Yeah, but
Middle
that's still
Eastern.
East. Yeah, that's still outside.
Yeah.
Still our colored people. Yes. Yeah.
But it's interesting. It's actually food is quite complex. There's a lot of there's a lot of gates and fences around all these different kinds of foods, and people are always managing that. Even when the food is basically simple, like in the UK.
Yeah.
In the north they eat the chips with the mushy pea sauce or the curries. I mean, it's like
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
specific in the tiniest way.
Yeah.
You know, I have to say it was hard. It was harder to get. English food can be really nice because it is quite simple,
Yeah.
and if it is well done, it can be really good. If it's like
Yeah.
you
A
know,
good roast.
a good roast, a nice
Yeah.
pie,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But I did enjoy food in New York. Actually, does a better job of things like brunch,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. They're
Mm.
really good at salads and stuff,
Mm.
you know. And people seem to eat a little bit healthier.
Mm.
Yeah, so a lot to navigate and a lot to sort of. So in a way, it's kind of this also helps to another uh, thing that we've talked about before when I've said that Malaysia lacks a brand identity.
Mm.
In some ways, the concept of Malaysian food is actually also quite hard to pin down. You know,
True.
there are some icons of Malaysian food. Your nasi lemak,
Mm.
char kway teow, or whatever.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
But it's not put into a clear context of it being Malaysian. That means we all participated in. We all brought something. The Chinese brought the noodle. We brought
Yeah.
the Portuguese brought the chilies. And so that whole narrative is kind of missing. That sort of builds a sort of a fabric, a woven narrative that makes us. But instead, it's very divided. It's this is Malay food, this is Indian,
Nyonya food.
and even worse is actually no, this is Malaysian food, not Singaporean food, and not Indonesian food, right? Which is another silliness, I think.
Nusantara. We share the same ingredients. We were
Yeah,
conquered by the same people. We
yeah,
moved around
yeah,
the same ships. Yeah. So it's very, I don't know, these nationalistic boundaries are a bit ridiculous because if
yeah,
we look at it from, what do you call that? Anthropological lens,
yeah,
yeah, we use like ginger. The Chinese, the Malay, the Indian all use ginger. They just use
yeah.
it differently.
Sure.
It all has the same property because it's ginger, right?
Yeah.
But besides its common, value of fragrance and heat,
Mm,
you can make a drink out of it. You can make a dessert out of it. You can make a curry out of it. You can
sure.
marinate a chicken out of it. And I think the value is recognizing that the ingredients represent us. How we cook,
Yeah, and especially the
is
ingredients,
our heritage.
especially the ingredients reflect our environment as well. They
Yes,
come from our environment. Yeah. So
correct.
actually, that's quite interesting because I don't think there's enough content or curiosity or intellectual inquiry about that,
Yeah.
which is maybe the path to where we will actually get to a better place. For example, a really simple thing is, you said because you grew up in Perlis, right? Which is
Yes.
rice growing country, right?
Yep.
I mean, like, I didn't know that actually, like, rice, pulot is something that we don't eat so much in the south, but they eat in the
Lots.
northern. north of us, like Thailand, Cambodia, stuff like that.
Yeah,
So these small nuances are not things that we know enough, I think, know enough about to really understand, like, not
right,
only like our locality, but also our regionality. And I think that's quite
right.
interesting too.
Yeah.
Or, I think like, did you eat a lot of pulut because you were fairly north?
I don't know what is a lot, but it was on the table like a couple of days a week. So you eat
Oh, really?
pulut
Oh, that's
with
a
like
lot. That's a
salted
lot.
fish. Yeah, you eat
Because
pulut
here,
with
if you think about it, in Malaysia, normally it's a festival thing. It's like a real festival. Like you go to the market, you go to Pasar Malam, and you see some of these things.
because you get pulut in like breakfast items like Sri Muka. The base is pulut. You buy certain if you have like there's a pulut with the prawn
Yeah, yeah, I
what
love that. Yeah, what's that called?
yeah,
Yeah.
pulut udang, right?
You can't even get this stuff.
There's a
It's
lot
hard
of pulut. It's like an everyday thing. It's not like an occasional
to-
thing. I think they make it fancy by making it yellow. So there's pulut kuning. So when you when babies are born and they reach their 44 day, and when you tell people the name of the baby, then they make pulut kuning, yellow glutinous rice. It's like full moon lah. The Chinese do full moon, right? And then when you are getting married, this is Malay tradition. The men come to your house bearing gifts, right? So they give you dowry, you give them something back, and in all of that there is pulut. So pulut is like considered luxury and a representation of wealth because it's
Hmm.
gold. It's like they use kunyit, turmeric. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so I want to finish on this last area, which is which sort of loops back to what Michael Pollan's series about cooked was. He actually described cooking as this quite magical alchemy.
It is alchemy. Yeah.
We have learned as human beings to do quite incredible things.
Yeah.
And so he actually split it into the elements: water, air, earth, fire. And he talked about barbecue. He
Mm.
talked about proofing to bake. Air is, and
Fermentation.
fermentation.
Yeah.
These are all very complex ideas that
Yeah.
a lot of
And every culture has fermentation. Yeah.
yeah. And we've started to get confused about what is our culture of using some of these things. Like we
Yeah.
have a lot of sourdough, and we are walking away from some of the really great fermented stuff that we have,
Yeah.
right? Like like it's like in Joe Burrow, it's hard to get. It's actually quite hard to get like appam.
Mm.
You know, I only eat appam when I'm in KL, when I'm near Brickfields, because it's a little bit more common. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's actually quite hard to get. And then you
But even
can't eat.
toasting is a bit fermented because
Yeah, it is.
they
Yeah, yeah,
yeah they keep the rice overnight and then it
yeah.
sours a little bit and then they put the
Yeah.
dal and then that's what gets blended up and
But capitalism has also changed that. Like, for example, here they won't let you buy thosai in the morning or at lunch. You can only buy it in the afternoon. Some crazy stuff because it's just the way they organize the kitchen rotation or
that's so sad.
right. Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah. So yeah. So there's actually quite. So this is why it's actually part of our eco literacy program that food is something that you can actually learn to quite a serious degree.
Yep.
So we want to teach basic things. Like one of the classes we had was just dumpling making, how to make a dumpling.
Yeah.
It's like a ancient thing. You just have to mix some flour and water and and it's
Yep.
something. And it's something that you see in cultures from China to Turkey to,
Yep.
it's actually a fascinating subject and there's a lot to know. And as you know it, you also can modify it to fit your own needs, your own nutritional needs. I mean, we're not even talking about nutrition right now because
Yep.
that's almost like a separate subject about
Yep.
introducing nutrition as part of this strategy of how you cook. But just the basic like planning meals, doing shopping,
Yep.
managing your
And like
ways.
when we buy stuff because it's just the two of us, I think COVID was a very interesting time because we were both at home. We had nothing to do. So we experimented a lot with cooking.
Yeah.
And I think we perfected like boiling onsen eggs and steamed fish and what was the other one? Steamed fish, onsen eggs, and there's one more thing that we figured out how to do. Like we'd always thought of doing certain things, but it was always a hit and a miss. But because we did it so consistently throughout COVID, that we became really good at it. And
Mm.
I think and all our food were plated very nicely during COVID because we had so much time. And so with
Well,
garnish,
actually,
with
this
arranging,
actually
yeah.
this is a good point to end on because it's we were forced to do it, but actually, all it requires is permission. We have to just give
Yeah,
ourselves permission
correct. And I
to
feel
spend that time,
after we did
which
that for
because
COVID,
it's an important activity. You
correct.
know.
Now it's like it's standard. We
Yeah.
know how to do it. We have done it before. We
Yeah.
have the equipment to do it, so and some of it was accumulated over time. So now it's like we know we have the stuff. So if we're gonna make like when Lyman makes, for instance, if he makes I don't know what does he make that's really unique. Okay, say for he makes beef ball noodles, right? He makes the beef balls himself. The noodles.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So all these kind of little things. Some we learn from Auntie Alice, and it becomes very decadent because you're putting in the mushrooms, you're boiling up the stock, or when we boil. So because my cat's food is human grade, right? So when I boil their chicken, I boil it with like extra feet and liver and stuff like that, so it becomes quite rich and it congeals. So Lyman likes this, so he will always keep a portion for himself, and
Hmm.
then the rest go to the cats. So because it's human grade, it doesn't really matter if we're stealing from their food box because
No, no.
it's all halal
Yeah,
and it's all
same
processed.
with me. I eat
Yeah,
that. I buy liver for them, and I always steal like one or two and put it in a
right.
soup or
You're not
stew.
gonna
Yeah,
cook one cube of liver for yourself. It's so
yeah, yeah.
ridiculous. Yeah, I'm stealing from my cat.
Also, one last thing we can talk about is actually, and I don't like this about myself. It's like I've grown a bit like jaded about food. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Just the handling of it and
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I
yeah. I
think,
totally agree. Yes.
you know what I mean? Because I remember, and this is like a process. I remember, I remember I went to like Bangkok once and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can eat this. It was just piled of blubbery.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my God, I'm sort of losing my Asianness here. It's like my ability to just
No, no,
eat
no, no,
whatever,
no. I think there's a limit
crunch,
to how much you
crunch
can.
the head and peel, tear it off the bone. And, yeah.
Oh, so
And now
basically,
I mean, if I hadn't didn't have my dogs, I probably wouldn't even be handling a lot of food, which is what happens in the West. You just don't handle it. It's all
yes.
cut into portions. You're just picking it up and grilling it or
No, and
whatever.
this is something like I think I mentioned earlier. When I was really young, I had because we go back to my mom's side of the family for school holidays in my grandfather's
Yeah,
place. Yeah. So as a child, I've always been taught how to cut fish. Clean
yeah,
prawns, prep all these food, right? Chicken and stuff. So it was never like scary or icky for
yeah,
me to prep the marketing. And
yeah.
we would, even back then, I think we would always keep them in portions because it just made it easier. So when you opened like an ice cream tub, it wouldn't be ice cream, it would be like chicken. That's just how we would prep the fridge.
Okay.
So I guess this is something that I've taken from my childhood prepping with my grandfather into my adulthood as I prep food, right? And Lyman's kind of picked up from that, and then he cooks the food and he gets it to the end. And then we eat,
Sure.
and then we go like, oh, maybe next time we'll put like, you know, uh, fried garlic on this, and I think it will just make it different, or he would like he would soak his mushrooms in some kind of like stock and sauce before he grills it or something. So I think there's some things that we learn from watching, and we learn
Sure.
from eating, and we learn from how to say, just imagining like, oh, maybe that could taste different, and that gets
Like I really love
adopted
smaller
over
fish.
time.
I really
Right.
love smaller fish, and it's something that I missed when I lived in the West because you actually cannot buy it.
Yeah.
It's actually
Yeah.
quite
It's
hard
by
to
caught.
buy it.
Yeah. By
It's like a
catch.
steak, a slice of fish,
Yeah.
They don't have like sala or ikan kuning or, that size. And unfortunately, I love it, but actually here, I don't cook it because for two reasons. One is
The
the
tediousness of
fishmonger
cooking.
won't clean it.
Yeah,
It's too small. He won't clean it.
yeah.
Whereas he'll clean a bigger fish. I'm like, oh, I don't think I want to clean a fish.
Is there?
A, and then B, when you cook it, it does kind of, there's. But the good news is I can just go and buy from any of these warungs,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
that's I
because
have
sometimes it's just the matter of like we don't like using a lot of oil, so we would
sure
never do a deep fry
exactly.
anything.
That's another thing. I don't like frying it. Yeah,
So we would never do any deep fry. So if
yeah,
we want something deep fry, it's outside. So then we will never get that heat in the wok to get to the point where
sure,
it's gonna crackle when you put in the fish, and
yeah,
it's gonna cook the outside faster than the inside. And
yeah.
not gonna be on our menu. So there are things that we can make ourselves, and then there are things that we just outsource. Consume it with happiness, and that's the
So
end of that.
now I'm like, what am I having for dinner tonight? I'm like starting to think about. All right, I think we did an hour. That was kind of nice. I mean, it's personal, what our backgrounds, our paths. But we do want to get, I think, to a place where we need to have a better understanding of marketplace,
Yeah,
nutrition, uh, navigating the rules and the gates and the fencing and all. And sometimes just saying, it's not such a big deal. Let's, and then figuring out how do we. I mean, like, what's frightening is things I just said, like the supermarkets are taking over how we buy food, and we're losing
yeah, of course. They
wet
narrowed
markets.
down the type
So
of vegetables available for sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So that's the problem, which, part of our lane in educating is that, it's actually a demand issue. It's like if
yeah,
we stop demanding it, we will lose it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So,
I mean, like if you look at like celery, right? They cut off all
yeah,
the heads. The leaves are all gone. Even if you wanted to use it to make stock, it's not there.
sure,
You
sure,
know. So yeah, because
yeah,
we had a French friend who stayed with us for a while, and he's like he just wants to boil it all, to make a fish soup. And then it's like, where's the head? It's like,
okay,
why
yeah,
did they throw away the head? So yeah.
well,
We've also
interesting.
never thought about that until he asked that question. Because we just took it for granted. We just bought it the way it was sold. And yeah,
Okay, I shall catch up with you next
yes.
week.
See you. Bye.
Bye.